Hello everyone, this is Sumit Parak and I'm going to start a playlist on ReactJS where I'll talk about React from very basic to advanced and we'll try to cover in depth of each React topic. In this playlist, we'll not only understand React but we'll also try to understand the whole ecosystem around it, right? Because React is a modern framework and React alone is dependent on so many things like Node.js, NPM, and various package managers and so on, right? We'll also understand how the web development has evolved from HTML, CSS, JavaScript to modern libraries like React, and how React was used to build in past using legacy method and how it is built now. So we'll understand all these things in this video, so let's get started. So web development, when the web development started, there used to be couple of browsers and you could create web applications using JavaScript, HTML and styles. Okay, so you could just create, let's say, an index.html file where we could write various HTML tags to build UI, and you could use different UI elements to build UI components. But it used to be very tedious because you had to build almost everything from scratch. I'm not following any folder structure here, but I would recommend that whatever project you build on, you have a proper folder structure. So for the time being, I'll just move these two files in the assets folder and then we'll just link them here. Okay. So let me open this file. So as you can see, this is just plain HTML file rendered in the browser, and if you look at the network request, you will see that it made request to index.css file here. All right, we could also load JavaScript like this, and you could see the JavaScript file is also loaded here like this. Now currently this CSS file is not making any impact here because this is just an empty file. Let me add a style here. Maybe let's take any random value. Let's take red and let's change the font color to white. Okay, now we also want to utilize, so as you can see, this file already had console.log, which means we'll be able to see some log here. As you can see, the beginning. Similarly, we could also add some event handling here so that as soon as the document is loaded, we'll see the alert dialog like this. So this is very basic HTML file and JavaScript and CSS we used to build in around decade ago, even before than that. But now with introduction of various modern libraries, the web development has totally changed, right? Because in past we could not build, what should I say, a large application because we didn't have lots of libraries. We had to build a lot of things from scratch. There were a lot of scalability challenges and so on. But nowadays it's very easy to create web applications and you can use a lot of libraries and things like that. So I'll talk about React in this case, and we'll understand what it is and how to set it up. So what is React? So basically React is a UI library which allows you to create reusable UI components and allows you to maintain interaction between different components and different sections of your page, of your application. But there is a whole ecosystem, the whole tool chain around a library like React. So in order to build a React application, you will need Node.js, and then you will need a package manager to install React dependencies. Package manager could be npm, pnpm, or yarn, or any other package manager you want to use. Alright. And then there are a couple of things like bundler. There are various React libraries that you could use in your application, but we'll talk about that in future videos. So first, let's try to understand how to create a React application from scratch using a legacy method, right? When React was introduced, we could create React application using a package called create React app. Okay. Create React app is now deprecated. So basically what this package used to do is it used to create a React application with some default boilerplate which you could modify later. It installed all the necessary dependencies in the React application, but we won't use this method. We will try to create it from scratch. Okay. Create React from scratch. This will help you understand what exactly is needed by a React application. Okay. And then we will cover how to create a React application using Vite. Create React app using Vite. Modern way. This is the modern way, and this is the legacy way, you could say that. I'm not going to cover the deprecated part because it creates a lot of things under the hood, right? We are going with this because so that you will understand what exactly is needed by a React application. Okay. So let's get started with the legacy way. Okay, so I already have a React app folder here. Let me go to that folder. Currently this folder is empty. So any library like React or framework like React has to be installed and configured in an npm package, right? So first initialize an npm package like this, right? So this package.json file is very important for any front-end application. So you could initialize this by npm command or even yarn or pnpm command as well, whatever you prefer. So currently you can see there is name, version, main, and a couple of other attributes by default, but there is no React dependencies yet. So when I say create React application from scratch, I meant we will install those dependencies by ourselves. We'll define folder structure which are needed for React to build and compile them all by ourselves, right? So that you understand in depth how it works behind the scenes, what exactly is needed by React and its older dependencies to build itself. So there are three main dependencies that you need to install. These are React, React DOM, and React scripts. Please note that React scripts was used to uh, in older React applications, but nowadays there are lots of modern toolings are involved, such as Vite, parcel, and rsbuild, and so on. We'll talk about that in future. For the timing, let's understand it first. So I'm going to install these dependencies, and you will see that these dependencies will be added to the dependencies array. So let's wait for a couple of seconds. So basically, these dependencies are installed from package managers, and you can find them in package manager like npm or yarn. For example, here you could view the information about React package and get any information about any particular package here, right? So the dependencies are installed. Now that I have also installed React scripts, let's add some commands here. All right, and then start. Let's try to run this application now and see what it does. So as it says that could not find a required file, index.html under the public folder, right? Let's go ahead and create one with index.html. Let's build it again. Maybe let's start again. Now it is trying to find src folder with this file, which we don't have yet. So let's create that. Sorry. Yeah, this one. Currently, let's keep both these files empty. You can either use npm start or npm run start, because npm, when you run npm start, it by default looks out for any start script in your package.json. This is same as this, but this syntax does not work with all kind of script. So now the React application is running in this 3000 port, but as we can see, there is nothing here. The page is empty. It is automatically loading the JS files bundled with React dependencies and all. It is empty probably because the index.html file is empty. So let me add a title here. Does it do anything? Yeah. So as you can see, the title has been updated. So we'll try to intentionally make mistakes to understand how things work behind the scene. Okay. Hello world. Okay, for some reason this is not hot reloading, but anyways, you can just reload the page and this shows the hello world. Now how do I render my React component? Because this index.js file is empty and we have already installed React dependencies here. So let's try to utilize React as it was supposed to, right? So let's create React UI elements now. So I'm going to import React. So this is very important line, because this is needed by React component. Okay, and then since we are using React 19, so that's why the import statement has slightly changed. It used to be React DOM in older versions than 19. Alright, so now React DOM is what is used to render a React application or React components into the actual HTML DOM. So as of now, if you look at the index.html file, we don't have any selector element where we could render a React application, right? So let me create one. Okay, so let me in fact comment it out first, and then let me, even though the root element does not exist, but let me use it anyway and see what happens. Okay, so now we got instance of the root element and we passed it to the create root function. So this is where React creates the root of the application, root of the React application. Now we are going to render the React components in this particular DOM element, for which we will use root.render. Let's say hello world. So there are no syntax error, no compile time errors, it's compiling successfully. But let's see which hello world is this. I think let's change this, hello React. Oops, it is still hello world. This is not printing this element, this is not printing this text because it could not find this root element. So let me go ahead and add this element from here. Okay, and let's see now this component has been initialized and rendered in this root element. So this, in this particular project, this index.js file is like entry point of your whole application, right? We could create a lot of reusable application, a lot of reusable components. Let's say, for example, I want to move it into its own component. I could do it like this, hello world. Let's name it hello React. Or since the file name is app.js, so let's name it app instead. Okay, I just copy pasted it here. Let's see, let's import it. Let's see if it still renders. Yes, it is still rendering. Hello React from app. It is still working fine. All right, and you could define multiple components in a proper folder structure, right? And you could start using them as you need. Okay, so let's say here I am creating a button component, and I have created a button here. Okay, so let me give it a type and button. Okay, so I want to use it in the app component, button, and this is how we import it. And now there are multiple elements. We can possibly import it like this, but in this case we will have to use fragment. My bad. See, the components are rendering here. So this is how we could create React application from scratch and this is, I mean, public folder, src folder, and the index.js file, and then index.html file is what needed by React scripts in past to be able to detect that it is a React application and treat it as a React application and compile it accordingly. So this is the legacy way to create React app. Now let's understand how to create it using modern tools like Vite. So let's create another folder called React Model App. So if you go to the React website, it will talk about, it will share command. You can either use this, 1 second. Alright, let me just go to Vite itself, and here I can create React application using Vite commands. So let me use this command. Okay, npm create Vite. I'm going to cancel this out, go back to the folder. Let me run you can probably pass the template as well like this, but we'll run this command as it is for now. So I'm going to name this React Modern App. I already have a folder for this. I hope it doesn't fail because I already have the folder. So now it is asking me to select a framework I want to create an application for, right? So as I earlier mentioned, we could also pass template option, but we can also select framework like this. So I'm going to select React. Now it is asking me to select variants, like what kind of React application I want to build, whether I want to use it with TypeScript plus React compiler, with JavaScript plus SWC, and so on. Yeah, so there are various variants. So I'm going to stick with JavaScript for now. So this is an experimental plugin, so I'm going to say this no. Let's say yes. So as you can see, what we earlier did, where we installed each package from scratch, where we created folder structure from ourselves, now the Vite is creating all these things automatically behind the scene. And as you can see, it has even installed all the dependencies and all the modern toolings, like for example, it has also installed ESLint, it has installed Vite, type definition files, even though we asked it to choose JavaScript variant, but it also installed type definition for React. It installed React and React DOM. There are a couple of scripts like dev, build, int, and preview. This will be used to run the React application in dev mode. This will be used to create production build of React app. This will be used to create linting. Then this will be used to create preview of a React app, and so on. This is the ESLint configuration, and this is the Vite configuration, which is used to build and run React application. So here we can see it has already created public and Vite folder, but in this particular case, index.html file is at the root of this project. It's not under the public folder like it used to be, in the legacy era. So here it is in the root folder, and in the public folder there is an svg file. Then in the src folder there are all the React specific components and stylings, right? So here main.tsx is where it is kind of bootstrapping the React application. It is also importing the CSS file where the CSS can be defined. So let me just go ahead and check this out, like how it looks like. As you can see, this has created a dummy counter app where you can click the button and it will increase the counter, right? This is pretty cool. This is the This is the Vite logo. So let's go ahead and understand this a bit. Okay, so this is the entry point of this React application, and if you look at this component, this is coming from app.jsx, and here it is using state management to keep track of counter variable, and then there are a couple of HTML tags, there are CSS files, index.css files, and then there is this SVG here. All right, so this is how we can create a React application using modern tooling like Vite. Okay, and as you can see, the React is dependent on so many things, right? It depends on Node.js because you can install any package manager only if you have a Node.js installed, and then it depends on Vite to build and run itself. It and for better development experience, it you also need ESLint and things like that, right? And that is what makes these modern tools very important, right? In React world or in any framework world, right? So this is how we could create React application using Vite. So in the next video, we'll try to dig deeper into how component works in React.js, how to build user interactions, how to create nested components, and so on. And I hope you like this video. And if you like this video, please support me by subscribing to my channel and share it with your friends. Thank you so much.